thing, but in the battle of the sexes...
Isn't that just like a man, always dissing the sisters?
Not a word to his mother.
The rule is you've got to stick to your own kind.
Y'all know people's gonna talk.
Or things get messy.
You may experience the incredible urge to disrobe for one of your platonic male friends.
Grace Under Fire, Thursday at 10, BBC Two.
In real life, Richard Wilson is nothing like Victor Meldrew.
Songs of praise make you sick, doesn't it?
Nothing at all.
Pipe smokers are selfish and subnormal.
Room 101 just brings out the worst in him.
If they want to do it, send them at top of a mountain or something.
Richard Wilson's top 10 of tat.
It's hairstyles that... And it's not jealousy, Nick, you know.
Room 101, Friday at 10 o'clock on BBC Two.
In half an hour on BBC Two, See Here previews Moving to English, a new TV series beginning in September that aims to teach English to deaf children through the British Sign Language system. First on BBC Two, a look at how sugar consumption affects our health. Sweet talking.
Sweet talking. Sugar causes me more concern than almost anything else I eat. It's been linked to a whole load of complaints, like diabetes, cancer, heart disease. It makes you fat, it rots your teeth. Yet what am I supposed to do when I'm planning a children's party? Everything seems to have sugar in it. Being a mum and expecting another one, I don't know what to think anymore. So, I'm off to get some facts from the scientists and doctors. The scientists at the Institute of Food Research in Reading study many aspects of our diet, including the way different foods affect our weight. I talked to nutritionist Sue Gatenby about sugar's role in obesity and whether it was a major cause of gaining weight.
Sugar does provide calories, it provides energy, but it probably provides only between, say, 15 and 20% of our dietary calories. It is not a major cause of obesity, it is not actually a cause of obesity. It makes foods palatable. It may, in some cases, encourage overconsumption of some palatable foods that are both high in sugar and high in fat. And in fact, it's the fat in our diets that provides most of the calories. And we really probably should be concentrating on reducing the fat content of our diets.
Is there any difference between brown and white sugar?
Nutritionally, there's no difference. They provide the same number of calories per ounce or per gram as each other. You may find that some of the dark brown sugars, the muscovado sugar, for example, may contain slightly more mineral content, but on the whole, they're exactly the same from a nutritional point of view. They taste different, but nutritionally, they're the same.
I also talked to the IFR's David Mealer, who studies the way we interact with our food.
Are we born with a desire for sweet things, or do we pick them up along the way?
The evidence is really very clear that humans are born with an innate liking for sweet taste. It is universal in humans. It is there probably actually prenatally, before children are born. Infants have a preference for sweetness. It is there very early on. There may be some other things that happen which affect that. There is a certain amount of learning that goes on later. We learn where sweetness belongs. Certain foods should be sweet, other foods shouldn't be sweet. We also learn about levels of sweetness. So there is a degree, it is modified by a degree of learning over the life, but it is very clear that we are born with it, and it is an innate, universal characteristic of humans.
Do men and women have different tastes regarding sugar?
In most types of sensory tests, we tend to find that, for one thing, women have a greater sensitivity. They're, perhaps if you want to say it, they're, quote, better at tasting things. So they do differ in that way, in terms of the perception, possibly. In terms of preferences, it's a little bit harder to say. There is some evidence that women tend to prefer, say, sweet, fatty foods, the kind of cakes, biscuits, pastries, chocolate, those sorts of things. Whereas perhaps men tend to prefer have a greater tendency to prefer more savory foods, meats, other entrees, those sorts of things. There does seem to be some difference in the sexes in their taste preferences.
Psychobiologist Peter Rogers studies our attitudes to food.
I think often a problem we have is that we think about food as a source of nutrition, and we're happy with that. We're happy about eating nutritional foods. We feel positive about that. Sometimes we feel rather guilty, or we have ambivalent feelings about enjoying food or using food to give us our moods a lift. Those ambivalent feelings, we may feel rather negatively towards certain foods, and I think sugar is a prime example of that. When sugar, earlier in our history, was a rare commodity, then people became very excited about and valued it very highly indeed. Certainly wouldn't have had the ambivalent attitudes we have now. I think we see it as a easy indulgence, and we should have those sorts of indulgences under better control.
In 1989, the government published the Coma Report. It investigated possible links between sugar and serious illnesses like diabetes, heart disease and cancer. So the next stop is Guy's Hospital to talk to one of the report's key contributors, Professor Harry Keane. Does he feel the links between sugar and such complaints have any substance?
Well, very little direct substance. I mean, there's no evidence really of any direct link between eating sugar and the development of all of those conditions. Now, you may wonder what I mean by a direct link. What I think is fair to say is that if people eat too much sugar, or too much fat, or too much of anything, and they themselves get fat, they get obese, then they're more likely to develop those diseases. So to the extent that sugar may contribute to a person's being overweight, then indirectly it may contribute to all of those diseases. But just eating sugar is highly unlikely to have anything at all to do with heart attacks, with diabetes itself, with hypertension, high blood pressure, any of the other conditions you mentioned.
When I talk to my mates about sweet foods and so on, one word that always comes up is addiction. Is there a danger of getting addicted to sweet foods?
Well, addiction means that if you are deprived of that particular item, you develop withdrawal symptoms. You know, the addict will get shaky and sweaty and twitchy and so on. That certainly doesn't apply.